The Treasurer is claiming the minuscule growth as a win. Can you make a bit of sense of all this? Should he be doing that?
Absolutely not, mate. So, as you alluded to, the economy overall, that's all the economic activity across the economy, only grew by 0.2% in the June quarter and only by 1% over the year. Now, that's the slowest annual rate of growth since December 1991 during the recession we had to have. But the thing about it is, Bill, our population currently is growing by 2.5% roughly. And that is obviously, extremely high population growth through immigration. And once you subtract that, real GDP per capita shrunk by 0.4% in Q2. It's now fallen for 6 straight quarters and 7 of the past 8 quarters. And what it means is that everyone's slice of the economic pie is now 2% lower as of June than it was 2 years earlier when the Albanese government entered office. So effectively, while the overall economy is growing very, very slowly, again, the worst in 33 years, everyone's slice of the pie is shrinking. And what makes it even worse, Bill, is that the economy is actually divided into 3 areas. So it's households, businesses and government. And obviously the thing that you and I and the listeners care about is the household sector, because that's where we live. And the household sector has been absolutely smashed.
Correct.
So spending is now contracted per capita for the last 6 quarters. So that's, real household spending per capita. It's down 2.4% over that period. Even worse, real per capita disposable income. So this is real incomes, once you adjust for inflation and population growth, fell again in Q2 by 0.2%. They're actually down by about 8% from the peak a couple of years back. So this is actually, one of the biggest declines in the world in real household incomes. And, so it's not really something Jim Chalmers should be cheering about. It's absolutely deplorable. The only thing that's kept the economy out of recession is this extreme population growth through immigration, but also, as you alluded to, public spending. So the public sector grew by 1.5% in the June quarter, whereas the private sector actually shrunk by 0.6%. And as a result, the public spending contributed 0.4% to Australia's GDP growth of 0.2%, which means that the private sector went backwards by about 0.2%. So, we've got this record public spending, we've got near record immigration and population growth. And that's effectively what's driving the overall economy, while everyone's slice of the pie, and especially if you're a household, which is all of us, is going back at an alarming rate. It's absolutely a deplorable economy.
So, and you've said this many times, so this is a government-created problem with the stimulus and the money that they're spending and the migration that they've allowed to happen, and it's the homeowners and the mortgage holders that cop it in the neck for that.
Yeah, especially them. So obviously, the household sector overall is shrinking, but within that household sector, the people who are getting hit the hardest are obviously those with mortgages, because they're the ones. The reason why we've had the big decline in household disposable income is, 1, a rise in mortgage payments. 2 is wage growth's been worse than most other countries around the world and hasn't kept up with inflation. And 3, it's also had an increase in income taxes through bracket creep, etc. So obviously the increase in mortgage payments or interest payments impacts mortgage holders the most, and they're the ones that have been smashed. And then obviously renters have been smashed by the high immigration, which has, ramped up, rental inflation. So it's a pretty bad economy we've got here. I'd argue it's almost a Ponzi economy. It's just relying on population growth and government spending, and neither of that is particularly sustainable.
Yeah, okay. Is he hedging his bets here? He's weighing up the possible recession with the prolonged inflation. They need inflation to come down politically, don't they, before the next election? Otherwise, they're in a bit of trouble.
Yeah. So basically, just about every opinion poll at the moment shows that Labor and the Coalition are roughly neck and neck, and that we're facing a hung parliament. So the Albanese government's been trying to focus on one thing, and that's the cost of living, and it's identified the cost of living as a central concern among voters, quite rightly. The problem with it is, Bill, is that new polling released this week by Redbridge Polling Group showed that only 24% of Australians surveyed could state one thing that the government's done that has helped them, which means that 3/4 basically can't name anything.
Yeah.
With the next federal election due, in the first half of next year, Labor's basically praying that the RBA starts cutting interest rates, because across the pond in New Zealand, the Reserve Bank in New Zealand cut interest rates unexpectedly last month and said that it's going to cut rates more. And the incumbent national government, which is fairly new, experienced a really strong bounce in the polls. They've also experienced a bounce in consumer confidence and government confidence and all these other indicators they measure. And I think Treasurer Chalmers and Albo are praying that the RBA cuts rates before the next election. Otherwise, it's going to be in a lot of trouble. And I think that's why Jim Chalmers has been, attacking the RBA publicly, saying that it's smashing the economy, things like that, because it knows if the RBA doesn't start cutting rates, Labor faces the very real prospect of becoming a one-term government.
Will it work for him? Because he's had more critics than people patting him on the back, coming out of the woodwork, slamming him actually for having a go at the Reserve Bank and questioning strategy and trying to apply pressure. Yeah,
well, it certainly makes him look incompetent, but in the end, the RBA is going to follow their data. So I think what the RBA will need to see before it cuts rates is the unemployment rate kick higher, which I think it will. But the RBA's forecast for the unemployment rate's 4.3% by the end of the year. We're currently at 4.2%. So I think if it kicks up to around 4.5%, it won't necessarily happen by December, but it should happen by early next year. Then it'll likely start cutting rates. So I think we'll definitely get a rate cut before next election.
Yeah,
but, Labor's getting very nervous about it because although inflation's coming down, it is sticky in the domestically driven inflation. That's things like rents and insurance prices and those sorts of things, energy, all the stuff I always talk to you about. And it is worried that. I think it recognises that if the RBA doesn't cut rates before the next election, it's going to be in a lot of trouble because of this cost of living issues and the fact that everyone's effectively going backwards.
All right. The big story in Brisbane today I want to ask you about is this proposed bailout of the Star Entertainment Groups, the casino, by the state government. Well, not a bailout, but they've got the hand out needing help for the state government. I know there was an exclusive story in the Financial Review today which outlined it very well, the predicament that they find themselves in off the back of a blowout in construction costs, which, surprise, surprise, up here in Queensland with the government settings. This is a bit on the nose, I reckon, for a lot of private, smaller businesses, and we see them every day, cafes, restaurants, lots of places, smaller businesses closing with tax debts that are much smaller than we're talking about here. Where's this bailout sit with you?
I think it's absolutely deplorable, to be quite frank. I mean, as you alluded to, Australia's had 3,000 construction firms go under in the last 12 months, roughly, according to ASIC data. We've also seen a host of hospitality businesses go under, retail, etc. I'd argue that building homes is a lot more important than gambling. And, if a casino thinks they can put their hand up for government assistance, quite frankly, doesn't pass the pub test. And why are they more worthy than a home builder when we actually need homes? I mean, personally, I don't think any of these companies should get government handouts. We work it's supposed to be a capitalist economy, and it's a market economy. And, if you can't cut the mustard, well, you go under. That's just the way it is. You take the risk, you get the return, etc. But to even entertain giving a taxpayer handout, or
so they want to delay their gambling tax payments. So are they essentially, and you'll be able to explain it, are they trying to make the books and the numbers look better so they can get some more money out of their lenders who are saying, no, we're not going to give you any more because you didn't see this coming, and we're already in the can for $450 million. We're not just going to open the coffers again.
Yeah, I'm not sure. My understanding, I just had a quick read of the AFR. I'm not across all the details in particular, but it sounds like the banks and the lenders want some sort of government assurance, whether that's tax breaks or something. But these are banks who are supposed to assess the risk of lending to star casinos when they first lend to them.
Yeah. And
if they didn't do their job properly in assessing that risk, well, that's on them. Why is it up to taxpayers to effectively come in and bail them out? It's absolutely absurd, especially, as you said, when we've got literally thousands of smaller businesses that have gone under in the last year. As I mentioned, 3,000 in the construction space alone.
Yeah.
Who don't get this kind of treatment. It's absurd.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. Thanks very much again, mate. I better let you go. I appreciate your time as always.
Yeah, cheers, Bill. Speak to you next time.
Leith Van Onselen, the unconventional economist, co-founder of Macro Business.